It's a beautiful spring day, and you and your wife decide to go for a picnic. You grab the kids, you ask your best friends to come along, and you pack up the car with fishing poles and picnic baskets and blankets, and you head up towards Marshburg because there's a perfect little trout stream up there, and you just know those fish are biting. When you get there, the women lay out the picnic, and you and your son and your neighbor Lloyd go down to the stream to fish. Your two little girls decide to go pick flowers. But before the end of the day is over, your life will change forever. Because this is May 1938, and the daughter is Margie West. And that's the day she disappears, never to be found again. This is the story of Marjory West. Welcome to Coffee with the Curator. The story of her disappearance has been told many times. On a Sunday afternoon, Mother's Day of May 8th, the family went for a picnic near Marshburg at a place called White Gravel. Around 3 o'clock, Dorothy West, age 11, and her little sister Marjory, age 4, decided to pick wildflowers for their mother. It was a warm spring day and there were a lot of flowers around. They had been cautioned not to go near the big rocks because there was a snake there. But the girls found some violets and wandered off anyway. Dorothy picked a small bouquet and ran back to give them to their mother. Then she went back to get Marjory, but she couldn't find her. She went and got her mother, and soon the other men joined them as well, calling her name, looking for little Marjory. But she just wasn't there. She had simply vanished. It is unknown how long they searched before they realized that they were going to need help. Family friend Lloyd took the other two West children, Dorothea and Alan, and drove back to Marshburg to call the Pennsylvania State Police at Kane. Marjory's parents stayed behind and kept searching and calling her name. The West family chose to go to White Gravel for their picnic, which is about 13 miles from Bradford, head towards Marshburg, and then go southwest. You can see from this topographic map that it's a very remote area with a lot of trees and a lot of hills, which is one of the reasons why Margie West was never found. Marjory's father was Shirley West. Yes, his first name was Shirley. He had been born in Bradford in 1900 and was about 39 years old at the time of her disappearance. He was in World War I, and here is a photograph of him wearing his uniform. Her mother's name was Cecilia. This is a photograph of her taken in the early 1930s. They had 3 children, Dorothea, Marjory, and Alan. At the time of her disappearance, little Margie West was almost 5 years old. She was born June 2nd, 1933, and disappeared May 8th, 1938. So it's almost her birthday. She had red hair, curls, blue eyes, was 36 inches tall, and weighed about 50 pounds. This photograph, a studio portrait, was probably taken when she was 4 years old. Later that evening, both Kane and Warren State Police, who had been notified of the disappearance, gathered at the picnic ground to begin an organized search. Celia and Shirley West, shown here talking to a state trooper, explained that their daughter had simply disappeared, and they told them of the efforts they had taken to find her, to no avail. Soon, 60 men from the nearby CCC camp at Redbridge, soldiers of Company K, the Bradford National Guard unit, and a number of volunteers from the local Legionnaires, Elks, Moose, and Knights of Columbus entered the woods, and the search began. Most were optimistic that it was simply a case of a child wandering off, and that she would be found, crying perhaps and scared, but safe. As darkness fell, men scrambled to find enough flashlights to help them navigate the woods. Later that night, 2 electrical trucks from the Bradford Electric Company showed up, equipped with powerful searchlights, and the search went on. It began to rain around 1 a.m. the next morning, Monday morning, and the ground quickly became mudlogged. The search became more difficult, but the men continued through the pre-dawn hours. At first light, volunteers from the Sons of the American Legion arrived to relieve the searchers who had struggled through the rain-drenched underbrush overnight, but many men refused to stop looking. By Monday, 24 hours had passed since Marjory had disappeared, and the Bradford City Council got together at their meeting and offered a $1,000 reward for information leading to her recovery. This reward poster was also posted around town. And even though this is the Great Depression, nobody stepped forward to claim their reward. By midday on Monday, with hundreds of men looking, the search parties had covered a mile on either side of a dirt fire road as far away as Morrison, which is about 5 miles to the west, and were working their way back towards Marshburg. Areas were divided into sectors so that no possible place that could hide a child would be overlooked. Men walked a grid, arm length to arm length, hoping to stumble across Marjory, her body, or at the very least, some clue to her disappearance. The weather made searching for the little girl almost impossible. The rain turned the road into mud. These boys at the right of the photograph are high school students who were pulled from classes to help with the search. The state police issued an 8-statewide police broadcast with a description of the missing child. And the search went on. The McKean County Democrat wrote, "It could not be more baffling if the earth had opened up and swallowed Marjory without a trace remaining." The men searched throughout Monday. News of the lost child had spread quickly. The Bradford-era telephone lines were jammed with about 2,000 phone calls, offering prayers, support, or asking for information. Never before in the history of the era had it received so many phone calls in such a 12-hour period. You can imagine, the story touched the heartstrings of just about everybody. A little girl disappearing on Mother's Day, picking flowers. It went nationwide. This man, we believe, is a newspaper reporter. Come to get the story. The story captured the front page of hundreds of newspapers, from California to North Dakota, Texas to Florida. All wrote of the mysterious disappearance, seemingly into thin air, of a little child and the extraordinary efforts that were being undertaken to find her. On Tuesday, bloodhounds from nearby Hawthorne, New York, were brought in. But by that time, any trace of Marjory had probably been trampled under the feet of the searchers. Harold Green, an amateur pilot and Kendall oil executive, actually flew his airplane over the search area, hoping to see Marjory. But as before, no trace could be seen. There were a lot of theories as to what happened to the child. Some thought that she had been carried off by a bear to its den and killed. Some thought an eagle had carried her off. But since she weighed about 50 pounds and was nearly 5 years old, it seems unlikely that an eagle could have lifted a child of that size. A lot of people thought she fell down an abandoned oil well, which was pretty common in 1938. This is a photograph of an abandoned well, and you can certainly see that it's possible. By Wednesday, and remember, Marjory had been missing now since Sunday, Percy Foote of the Pennsylvania State Police said he doubted Marjory was even still in the woods. Based on the sheer number of searchers, and we're talking thousands, he believed she'd either been hit by a car and taken away or kidnapped. I don't see if this child is in there why she wouldn't have been found. Later, on Thursday, Chief of Police Edward Emmons from Bradford noted, "If she's still in the woods, she's dead by now." A final drive was organized that Thursday. More bloodhounds, more state troopers, more high school kids, hundreds of more volunteers searched. But she could not be found. As the official search came to an end, Mayor Hugh Ryan thanked all the volunteers that came forward and emphasized that the search had been as thorough as possible. Marjory West, if alive, would be 87 years old today. People may wonder why a DNA search isn't done, and it was. Back in 2012, the Pennsylvania State Police obtained DNA from Marjory's cousin, which was entered into the CODIS missing persons database. There was a report of a woman living in a nursing home in Rochester, New York, who represented the progressed photograph of Marjory, was close to the right age, and rarely had visitors. But under investigation, It was discovered that that woman had actually immigrated to the United States with her parents in the early 1900s. She wasn't Marjory. Today, the disappearance of Marjory West is one of the oldest missing children cases in the United States. The case is still open.